So we would like to welcome you tonight, Barb and I, to things you've got to know when coming out later in life. And we really start with the beginning here. And I was just saying to Barb, I don't know if I should call myself a coming out coach because I really believe fully, both Barb and I, and all the women that are in Lotus Group coaching, we really believe that this is your journey. So no matter what you decide, whether you decide to come out or to not come out, to stay in your marriage or not stay in your marriage, that is totally your decision. And we will support you in whatever your decision you'll make. I don't think being queer, just to be clear, is a decision, but what you do with it is the decision. How you decide to live your life as an LGBTQIA plus person in this world, that's the decision. So I just want to be super clear about that. So this is best of my work in the later in life community for the past years, and Barb and I both want to thank you for joining. Each day, we have 4 days. We will cover an aspect of the journey and provide you with a small part of what we teach in our coaching program. And we will talk about the coaching program more fully on day 4. And then we're going to have a question and answer service, a session on Thursday evening, right after this meeting. So I honestly believe in the power of the universe, and I believe deeply that you are here for a reason. And as I said before, both Barb and I have been in your shoes. We both have come out after marriages and children. And Barb will tell you a little bit about her story more tomorrow when she talks about catalyst relationships and lesbian first queer relationships. But I was somebody who came out knowing I was not straight, but didn't know what that meant for me. And I did not have a catalyst. I I called the first. I'm actually married to the first woman that I've ever been with. She's in the next room, and I like to call her my confirmer, not my catalyst. So so we all come to this from different paths. I just knew it was something that I needed to figure out. And so when both of us came out, it was not a parade and it was not a big pride celebration. But fast forward to today, I've helped thousands of folks. And as I said, Barb joined in 2021, and we do a lot of content creation. We do individual and group coaching, mutual support groups, and Facebook groups, and my podcast coming out and beyond, which a lot of people know me from. These are some pictures of my wife and I. That picture in the center is my daughter the day I got ordained, and I'm giving her a big fat hug. And these are some of the people that have been in our program over the years, and some of the things that we have done, including taking a bunch of people to Utah and hiking through the mountains there. So I have lots of testimonials, and I'm not going to bore you by reading them, but if you want to look at them afterwards, you can, and they are also on my website. So I want to talk about, Barb and I are both going to talk about who we are. So there's my personal story, and then there is my professional story. So like a lot of people that come out later in life, I was raised in a very chaotic home, and chaotic can mean many different things to many different people. And my chaos was my dad was an alcoholic. I lived a very heteronormative life until I was 50. And then I got divorced it was by the time I got divorced, it was 54. I identify as queer. I'm the mom of 4 kids. Those are my chickies up on top. I have, like a lot of women of my generation, I have cared for aging parents and aging relatives. I am a spiritual seeker. I have always been someone who's intensely curious about the more unexplainable of life, if you would. So I have been a spiritual seeker my whole life. I'm married to my wife. I moved from Connecticut to Nashville, Tennessee after I came out. I am known as showing up for people, and I love to travel. Um, People would tell you I'm very funny, I'm kind, and if you know me well, I have a bit of a temper. You won't see that with me, but the people I love see that. Unfortunately, I am the youngest of five. I am a pickleball player. I am a Broadway show aficionado. I love soccer and I love to read a good book. But ever since I went and got my master's degree, that has sort of fallen by the wayside. Professionally, I am a graduate of Yale Divinity School. I'm a graduate of Women's Leadership Program from Hartford Seminary. I'm an ordained minister in the Progressive United Church of Christ. I'm a clinically trained chaplain, which means I've completed a internship and a residency within a hospital program. I'm a bereavement counselor. I'm an adult development and training expert. I worked for the Girl Scouts for about 6 years, and that's where I got my diversity training certificate. I started this business way after 50. And so I'm the owner of Amory Zanzel Coaching, but I also found out after 50 that I'm an entrepreneur and I really like it. I also own Purposeful Empowerment, which is a business coaching venture I have with a partner of mine. I've also generally contracted 3 homes and done entire renovations. And I am also a hospice chaplain as well. So I'm going to let Barb introduce herself right now.
Hi, everyone. I'm so delighted that you're here tonight and that I get to join you for the next 4 days talking about the best of this experience and the challenges too. So, for me personally, I also came from a bit of a chaotic childhood because in my home, I had a parent with mental illness. So, a lot of the characteristics of coming from a home like that are similar to having a parent who's alcoholic. As a middle child, I was the peacekeeper and very social. I was married to a man for 21 years. I was with him for 24 years altogether. And that changed when I met my catalyst. And I came out in 2017. I have 2 grown daughters. My oldest daughter is transgendered. My kids are 19 and 23. I have my parent with mental illness is still with us, but my dad passed away in 2018. So unfortunately, he didn't get to see this next variation of my life, but I know he would have supported me. But I do understand what it's like to have an aging and ill parent. I am quite joyfully single. I've dated quite a bit since I've come out in 2017 and had some longer term relationships within that period of time. I know, a lot about dating online and just what it's like to step into the dating world after you've been out of it for a really long time. I live on a flower farm in the beautiful Kawartha Lakes region of Ontario, where I grow all kinds of beautiful flowers. It's my passion. And I'm currently also earning a master's of counseling psychology so that I can better serve this community. I also show up for people. And one way that coming out really affected my life was that it made me brave in other ways. And I actually overcame a driving phobia that was lifelong. And I learned to drive when I was 46. I'm now 51. And I can tell you, driving just gives me great joy. I'm a mom to the sweetest golden retriever ever, Stella. She's the best dog in the whole wide world. I love music. I love dancing. I love playing instruments. And I've often used songwriting to work through my big life changes, my feelings, and my experiences. Professionally, I'm a graduate of the University of Toronto and Sheridan College, and I'm currently an MACP student at Yorkville. I'm also a licensed humanist officiant with the Ontario Humanist Society, and I'm on that board of directors. Humanism is, of course, a secular philosophy of life. But there is a spiritual side to me as well, and I'm digging into that more and more these days. I formerly worked at municipal and county levels with tourism with focus on events and grant writing. I've also worked in recreation with seniors. And since my coming out, I have largely worked as a self-employed person, which allowed me the flexibility to be able to be there for my kids during a really difficult time. And my specialty is in content strategy and generation. I have an emphasis on writing and graphic design and audio and video editing. And I am also a published author. So that's a little bit about me professionally.
And thank you so much, Barb. So before we get started, I really want to show you one of my favorite graphics. And if you follow me at all, you may have seen this before. And I really believe in this theory of something called the comfort zone. And the comfort zone is really a place where we're meant to feel most at peace and most secure. But a lot of times when people come out later in life, they have ticked off everything on the list that's supposed to make them feel like they're in their comfort zone. Often they're married, often they have children, often they have a career. Often they've done everything on the list that we're told that would make them happy. Yet there is a piece of them that feels very like missing. And so, what happens is that people want to step out of their comfort zone and start exploring things, and that's why, like, I wrote that email, because I know that what happens a lot of times when people are wanting to step out of their comfort zone, fear happens, right? We lack self-confidence, we make excuses and procrastination. I think that is probably the biggest thing I see with coming out later in life. Also being really affected by others' opinions. And we're afraid because we can't see when we begin the coming out process or begin to question our sexual or gender orientation. What happens is we cannot see, right? We can't see the end zone. We can't see where this is all going to last, where it's all going to end. And so when we start to step out of our comfort zone, all the questions, all the insecurities, all the procrastination excuses start to hit us. And what ends up happening is we stay in the comfort zone that's really not very comfortable for us. And so one of the ways we work with people, Barb and I, is that we help them to walk through that fear zone. We're very aware of it. We're very aware of how it affects our later in life community. And so we help people walk through that. And then eventually, people start going into the learning zone where they start to learn about, like, the queer community. They learn about what they like and what they don't like. They learn about what it's like not to maybe be married anymore. They learn how to make big changes in their life that a lot of times when the people they love the most are giving them a lot of pushback. And then as people get through the learning zone, they go into the growth zone again until they want to make some other changes in their life. And so once we realize that it's sort of uh, you know it's sort of like that. If you've ever done any type of Hinduism, what is it, Satanama, it is birth, life, death, rebirth. And so continually we go through this process of making changes and learning and growing. We're not supposed to stay in our comfort zone forever. And sometimes we've been told our comfort zone is heteronormativity, but actually it really doesn't fit who we were created to be as a person. So maybe I'm not straight. And why is it so dang hard to come out? And it's really hard to come out for a lot of people. And I think there's really four different reasons. I think that there's like we have been brought into this world, and parents, the families, friends, communities around us condition us. Now, I am not going to say it's in any type of evil intent. It's just that are conditioned by all the messages we get from our parents, our family, our friends, our community, even laws about how we should live. Let me talk about laws for a second. So, for example, in the 1940s, if you were a woman and you went out in pants, you could be arrested. If you were a man and you went out in a dress, you could be arrested. So we even have laws now. If any of you have followed the news about what's happening to the trans community here in the United States, they're trying to legislate transness out as something that is wrong and that is horrendous, but that is how we get conditioned. And then we also have the authentic self. That is the person we were born to be and born to be, created to be. And what I want to say, that most of the people that I work with are between like 35 and 55. And of course, there's always the outliers, the 30-year-olds and the 65-year-olds. But most of the people are between 35 and 55, 60. And what I would like to say is that most of them, if you are in a part in your life where you are questioning everything that you once thought was true, well, congratulations. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, because the work of midlife, according to people who study, different stages of life, is to question who you were told to be, keep the pieces that feel true and honest to you, and get rid of the ones that no longer fit who you are. Another thing is cognitive dissonance, and compulsory heterosexuality and internalized homophobia. And I'll go into those in a little bit more deeply. So, when we are in our conditioned self, a lot of times we really worry about, worrying about others' things, procrastinating and isolating, all those things that are listed on the side. We live in a state of fear because we're always worried about maybe we're not doing the right thing. Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should do that. And so, when we decide to move outside the conditioning, outside the comfort zone, we move towards our authenticity. And a lot of times people, when they have moved from their more conditioned self to more who they are supposed to be as a human being, everything feels better. Barb, would you agree with me about that?
Well, I 100% would, and I would say, the burden of having to hold anything back um, really is makes for such a release in your life. When you'd always feel, or if you've always felt like you're a square peg trying to fit into a round hole, when you find, the correct shape for you, it's just like things get so much easier, so much
Hmm.
easier. Hmm.
Hmm. And it's really something that you can't explain until you begin to experience it yourself. That it's not like and I want to be really clear. It's not like all your problems go away or anything like that. It's not like you have bad days or anything like that, or maybe have struggles in your relationship, but it's like you have a certain sense of peace with yourself and who you are as a human being. So those things that may have caused a lot more grief and anxiety within you when you were in your conditioned self, you're able to face them in a different way now, when you have begun to come out and to embrace who you were created to be. So, I really like for you all to think about cognitive dissonance. Now, the easiest way to, if you don't know what cognitive dissonance, it's a psychological term, and it is one of those terms that is easily explained. For example, that, like, you smoke cigarettes, right? You keep smoking cigarettes. You've heard all the information about why smoking cigarettes is bad for you, but we continue to smoke the cigarettes, right? So I think that happens when people come out later in life. We have a core belief that is very strong. I am straight. And then when we are presented with the evidence that works against the belief, it's really sometimes hard to accept the new evidence. Like, for example, a lot of times people, when they have a catalyst relationship, and I know Barb can relate to this, is it just her, right, Barb? Oh, it's not because I'm gay, it's because I've met this person and it's just her.
For sure. And I would also say, in my experience, what I ended up doing. my entire life long when I found myself attracted to a woman. uh, Say it together with me, Anne Marie. I admire her. I would be fascinated with her. I would be interested in her. I would admire her, but I just wasn't able to connect the sexual desire to the admiration.
Right. And so we rationalize and ignore everything, even because it doesn't fit the core belief that we're straight. So, for example, my ex husband and I, we used to look at, okay, we used to look at women's boobs together. And I had like literally no jealousy of that at all. It was like something we did when we were at the beach. We were being silly. It was no big, it was just, I know we were objectifying women, and I apologize for that. But it was something that, that we did together, had no jealousy. I didn't care. But because I assumed I was straight and I was just with my husband and that's what we were doing. And now I think about it, and I would never do that with my wife because I'd probably rip her eyes out. But the thing is that like I kept on thinking I was straight. And a second story I have to tell you, I was like walking behind this girl and she had a pencil skirt on, and I was coming home from New York City, and I was at the Brewster train station, which is in Brewster, New York, and I'm walking, and she's walking in front of me, and all of a sudden it dawned on me. I had been looking at women like that my entire life. This was in the middle of coming out. And I just didn't even realize I've done that. I was doing that. It's like, looking at women's breasts with my ex-husband. I didn't realize. I thought everybody did that. I didn't know that. No, not everybody does that. So I really love the thought of compulsory heterosexuality, and I'm a big believer in this. If you have seen the Comp Het document in the on the internet at all, please, let me know in the chat because I'd love to see who's read that. You literally can Google Comp Het document, and that's the short term for compulsory heterosexuality. It was popularized by Adrienne Rich, who, by the way, is a late in life lesbian. And her theory is that heterosexuality is forced upon women in a patriarchal and heteronormative society. And she wrote a very influential article in 1980 about that. So it talks about how women are socialized to prefer relationships with men and devalue relationships with other women. And so we're often encouraged to identify with males and discouraged from identifying with females. Now, I do believe that it really depends on where you grow up, how forceful this is present in your life. If you've grown up in a conservative religious home, this is and I was talking about a conservative religious home when there's like complementarianism, like the woman answers to the man and stuff like that, then you have been fed this since the time you were little. And and another thing is I often say is that a lot of times when women want to explore this, they'll talk to their husband about it, and the husband will say something like this, and let me know if this rings true to you. Well, I don't care if you go and be with a woman. If it was with a man, it would bother me. But if you're going to be with a woman, that's okay with me. And so in that statement alone, and I've heard so many of my clients have said that to me, my ex-husband has said that to me, but it really, in the end, it's very patriarchal because it diminishes the value of a relationship with a woman, with another woman, in that simple statement like that. And what a lot of times men don't realize, if their wife is not straight, the value of the relationship with the woman will be greater than the relationship with them. And a lot of times, the women I work with don't even realize that in the beginning. They begin relationships with other women while they're still married, and they never expect to fall in love or to have deep feelings for the woman that they're with. And if they're bi, or if they're lesbian, or if they're pansexual, those feelings can quickly become very deep and very real, and sometimes changes the dynamic of their life. So, the last thing I wanted to talk about tonight is internalized homophobia. And this is a big, long explanation for it. what I have typically found is that women who come out later in life to the queer community are often the most amazing allies. They really are. They often have queer kids, so they're very supportive parents of their queer children. They may have queer brothers or sisters. They're very supportive of them. They may even have a queer parent or two, and they're supportive of them. But the only person that can't be gay is me. And I was always a huge ally to the queer community. It just made sense to me. I never questioned it. I innately understood that people could be in love with their same, with people within their gender, I just understood it. Like it never was a question to me, and I was always so flummoxed why people were like, oh, that's disgusting or bad, because I never felt that way. And now I sort of realize it's because I was gay myself, and that's why I didn't feel that way. But a lot of times, most of us are incredible allies, but the only person that can't be gay is me. And I wonder if that sounds familiar to any of you guys, you all as well. So, how do you know if you're suffering from it? So, when people think that they're huge allies, well, I can't be, I can't have internalized homophobia. But if you're denying, lying to yourself about your same sex attraction, um, you really have it. It's a secret. You have to, you have we have an inability to come out to save people, even if we really want to. Um, if we're confronted, a lot of times we will deny that we're gay. We may come out selectively. And I just want to say the only place where we really have to be careful about coming out is often work, because if it's going to jeopardize your livelihood, we have to be really, really thoughtful about that, because people do have to make a living. And my wife, who's been out since 1985, is a huge believer in that as well. You may be in a relationship and you're insisting your partner keep your secret. A lot of times people will have a double life. So, for example, I know of queer couples that would keep two different houses and go back and forth between two different houses because they couldn't admit to their family, their friends, that they were queer. A lot of times they would have they would rent a two-bedroom house, even though they would rent a two-bedroom house, even though they're only sharing a bed. So, uh, forcing others to stay in your closet. So like if we're like really closeted, but we're dating someone who's not, but we force them to be sort of closeted because we're closeted. We lie by omission. So if somebody says, how's your romantic life? How's your boyfriend? And you just don't say anything. You say, oh, I don't have time for a relationship right now, but you're in an intensely romantic relationship with your girlfriend, then it is lying by omission. And one thing that people often don't think about too is that if we know we're gay, like we really know it, or queer, and we spend a lot of energy hiding that from others, it also makes it sometimes too hard to have intimate relationships with other people. And because to have meaningful relationships, we have to be honest with who we are. And so, if we're really afraid of being exposed, a lot of times people will keep other people at an arm's length. And people often don't think about that. So, we have homework for tonight. We gave out a workbook, and if you haven't gotten a copy of the workbook, it's in the Vita Nova group, and it is also it's also been sent out in the letters. But if you haven't gotten it, let me know, and I'll send you a copy of it. And it's really on our homework is page 7 and 8. Barb, which pages are those about? Do you recall?
Let me pull it up here. It'll just take me two
I think
seconds.
it's reframing about um,
Yeah,